Hello again, everybody. Bobby J never gets old. Robert Jenrick is here. How are you?
Very well. Good morning, Kate.
How's it looking?
Well, look, it's the final hours of the leadership contest. If any of your viewers haven't voted yet, they've got until 5 o'clock today to do so, and I would urge them, because what we've seen yesterday with this budget shows why we need a very strong Conservative opposition, and we need it now. No messing around. You want to have the strongest possible leader of the opposition in place to take the fight to Labour.
It's your flipping fault, though. Your fault that we were in so much debt.
Look, hang on. What we saw yesterday was a Halloween horror show. This was the biggest political heist in modern British history. £40 billion...
Since John Major.
£40 billion of tax rises hurting people across this country. And just 3 months ago, the Labour Party won election on a pledge not to raise taxes. I'm afraid Rachel Reeves, who you've just interviewed, is acting like a compulsive liar. She said during the general election she wasn't going to raise taxes. She just has. She said she wasn't going to increase debt. She just massively increased debt. And then after the election, she invented that there was a black hole. The public will not trust this Labour government. They're making it up to justify immense tax rises. They're going to hurt the economy, hurt people's working lives.
Are you comfortable calling her a liar?
Well, look at her record. She literally said during the general election that the tax bill was not going to rise for working people. It's just risen for working people. She said she wasn't going to change the fiscal rules and increase borrowing. It's just risen by £50 billion. And then immediately after the election, she invents a black hole. Today, not a single credible economist, not the OBR, no one will stand behind that claim. It's just simply invented to justify the political choices that she's making. A £10,000 pay rise for well-paid train drivers in order to take away the winter fuel allowance for 10,000 poorly paid pensioners. You know, these are political choices being made that are going to hurt people the length and breadth of this country and are not even going to drive the economy forward. If you look at what the Treasurer and the OBR said yesterday, growth is downgraded. So you're saying borrowing is up, inflation is going to rise, interest rates are going to rise, the cost of borrowing for the government is rising, costing generations more extra money. And all the time, growth is actually going to be less than it was if there wasn't this Labour government. This is why we've got to get them out. This is why Conservative members should be voting for myself, so there could be very, very strong, competent opposition from day one.
Shed load of money for the NHS, though, which you, I'm sure, will applaud.
Well, I want to see the NHS well-funded, of course I do, but I also want to see productivity improve. The public are not just interested in how much money you're sticking in, they're interested in what is actually happening for patients and value for money. And where are the reforms? None have been forthcoming.
They're working on that, they say.
Well, they're working on it, yeah, manana. Wes Streeting at the general election said he had a plan. He doesn't have a plan at all, does he? He's doing a 6-month-long consultation. He'll think about it, maybe bring forward a plan. If you want to put money into the public sector, you've got to accompany it with reforms. The Labour Party have no reforms. Not in education, not in health, not in transport. There are no reforms. That means that money is going to be wasted, the size of the state will keep rising, and people's taxes will keep going up.
So what would you do?
Well, I want to get the economy growing again, and I've set out...
What would you do with the NHS?
Well, I would make sure that we empower the good managers, we sack the bad ones. In 90% of NHS trusts last year, Kay, not a single manager was sacked for poor performance. As a country, we've treated it like a religion, not as a public service. It needs reform. We need to take on the structural challenges, ensuring that innovation is actually spread, that we sack bad people who are not working in the interests of the patients. That's the kind of reform agenda that we need in the NHS right now.
How can you be effective opposition when you couldn't even organise for the new leader to be in place to respond to this government's first budget?
Well, I argued that the new leader should have been, but I thought Rishi Sunak was very good yesterday, and in fact he made mincemeat out of Rachel Reeves. He exposed all of the lies that I've just set out. You know, he made very clear that she's been telling a pack of lies for months now, and no one's believing it. The public are furious about what's happening. Everyone from business people, international investors, family farmers, young people trying to get on the housing ladder, people who just want to leave their pension to their partner when they die. I mean, Labour are absolutely attacking everyone in our country, length and breadth of the country, all sectors of society, from the poorest to the richest.
In order to improve public services that you've run into the ground, they would say.
Well, look, I'm the first to admit that there were mistakes made in recent years, but the idea that there's
mistakes?
Well, I think we should have done more to reform the NHS. I think we ourselves should have done more to get the economy growing. But what is Labour's plan? There is no plan, is there? All they're doing is the classic thing that Gordon Brown did when he was Prime Minister, last Labour government, tax more, borrow more. We all saw where that ended previously. There is no agenda to reform our public sector. It's just pumping money in to help union paymasters. It's the easy answer. It's always the easiest thing in government, just to put in more money without trying to work out how do you improve the service. Look at the train drivers. They gave them a £10,000 pay rise without properly even settling the strikes and without any reform agenda for our railways. They're doing the same mistake time and again. Well, 2 days after the Transport Secretary said she was going to settle the pay, they said they were going to do a strike on the East Coast Main Line. That is what's happening time and again.
That was over a different issue, as you well know. The Rwanda scheme, you've been claiming everyone in the Cabinet knew it wouldn't work, but turned a blind eye. Explain that to me.
Well, as you know, I resigned from the Cabinet because I wanted to strengthen the Rwanda scheme to make sure it actually worked. And it was clear to me that when
you say to everybody in the Cabinet?
Well, we discussed this matter in Cabinet, and it was clear to those sat around the Cabinet table, privy to those discussions, that unless you left the European Convention on Human Rights or hived it out, dealt with it in the legislation that we were putting through Parliament, it wouldn't work. And ultimately,
Did the Prime Minister know? Did the Prime Minister think it wouldn't work?
Well, the Prime Minister and all those who were sat around the table. I'm not going to get into the individuals, but the point I'm making is very clear. I was willing to take a stand on this issue because I want to secure our borders. And now, in this leadership contest, anyone who shares my determination to do so should be voting for a candidate who wants to take us out of the European Convention on Human Rights, who wants to cap legal migration in the tens of thousands in Parliament so we can finally fix this problem. And your viewers have until 5 p.m. today to do so.
What happens if you don't win?
I'll serve the party and the country in any way I can.
Have you had those conversations with Kemi?
Kemi and I are very friendly. We are in contact, and certainly if I'm leader of the party on Saturday, then I would like Kemi to play a big part in the future of the Conservative Party.
And what she said in response to that?
Well, I'm not going to... You have to ask her that question, but I'm not going to...
I'm asking you, she's not sat here.
I'm not going to tell, you know, what our private conversations are, but I think the two of us can and will work together.
It's good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.